Welcome back to the show, and now jumping into the third segment on today's episode, we're going to talk some more about the Carolina Panthers and their quarterback Bryce Young. Another bad year in 2023 for Bryce, for the Panthers. Well, not for Bryce because it was his first year, but another bad year for the Panthers. Overall, not a good look for them. Finished 2-15, and the first overall pick in Bryce Young. They didn't do too much to really help him out and give him the opportunity really to go out there and perform as a typical number one pick would be expected to produce, but clearly he wasn't ready for the situation because the Panthers didn't do a well enough job to prepare him enough, really support him with a cast around him that could give him the best opportunity to be successful in 2023. And I'll touch on that more a little bit towards the end of the segment. But during the regular season in 2023, they fired their head coach Frank Reich, and that obviously brings a lot more issues to a rookie quarterback trying to figure out his own thing. And now the leader of the entire team is out the door. So now who steps up? Who continues the development of Bryce Young? That really hindered him in his first year, and now I believe it is looking a little bit brighter. They are getting better, and they have gotten better already at this point in the offseason, being heavily influenced by the offensive side of the ball because they hired their new head coach in Dave Canales from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The former offensive coordinator for the Buccaneers now is the head coach, so it is no surprise that they brought in a couple of offensive linemen. Deontay Johnson, they traded for him. They drafted Xavier Legette out of the University of South Carolina. They drafted Jonathan Brooks, who was arguably the best running back in this year's draft class. No secrets as to why they were so heavily influenced by the offense. They want to make sure that it all fits into Dave Canales' system, obviously, but also because Bryce needs help on that side of the ball. It is pivotal for Bryce and this team in the Carolina Panthers to help him out in any which way that they can, because as a rookie in 2023, you look at some of the numbers he posted, over 2,800 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions, and again, a 2-15 record by the Carolina Panthers. It isn't obviously the greatest numbers for Bryce, but I feel like a lot of people that know him within the organization or just people that know him in general. I saw CJ Stroud talk about him pretty highly still, that he has all the confidence still in the world in Bryce. He is built for this, from his success in college, and it just feels like people know that he could be good, know that he could be successful. They're just waiting. Really, it seems like for the Panthers to support him with the right amount of people to give him at least a chance to do that. And one of the pieces that wasn't too much at fault last year for how well Bryce Young produced was Adam Thielen. And he was definitely the veteran in that group. He was their leading receiver throughout a major portion of that season for the Carolina Panthers. And obviously, it wasn't enough. I don't think anybody would have expected it to be enough. Nobody would have dreamed that Adam Thielen had that run during, I forget what weeks it was. It was probably week 6, week 5 maybe through week 9 or 10. Something like that in the middle of the season where Adam Thielen was, I think, averaging over 90 yards, at least 6 or 7 receptions. Something crazy like that for a receiver his age to be leading this team. It shouldn't happen, but it did. I was very happy he was on my fantasy team, but regardless of that, it really didn't do too much to move the needle. That's why you can't really have that as the circumstance for Bryce Young. And Adam Thielen already this year has felt that he sees a difference in Bryce Young already throughout the building and how he carries himself by saying, you can tell Bryce's demeanor in the building. He's just more comfortable, right? And you don't really realize it when you start getting to be a veteran guy, but just because you forget about those times. Thielen also noticed the urgency, the confidence, and the comfortability in the system that they're implementing this year under Dave Canales, which can only be a positive thing, obviously. And Adam Thielen really pointed to the fact that a full offseason with OTAs, voluntary workouts, mandatory minicamp has really helped Bryce Young tremendously in this system, because not only were they ill-equipped last year to be successful with a rookie quarterback, the fact that he had to do everything that rookies go through in their first year, all the extra attention, all the extra responsibilities that they have to get to outside of just playing football, it is a lot. And once you get to playing football and you're not really supported as you should be, It makes that year a lot longer. You obviously have to play a lot more games, and how that takes a toll on your body. The mental wear and tear of not being very good at all. It really takes a toll on a young guy, especially when they're looked upon to be the leader. And now with a full offseason under his belt, Adam Thielen has already seen a brand new Bryce Young, as he describes it, throughout 2024 and this offseason. So it poses the question, what was it? What was really missing from the team last year? Was it the system by Frank Reich? Was it more on Bryce? And maybe he isn't number one pick material, because that isn't out of the question. We've seen a lot of number one picks not be the guy for their organizations. But some people will point to Reich, some people will point to Bryce Young. But again, to me, like I started this segment, it really just comes down to the fact that they were ill-prepared. They didn't do enough to bring in Bryce Young as the number one overall pick, and to bring him into a situation where he could truly be supported and where he isn't required to do too much. And I know that's almost an oxymoron. When you're the number one pick, you're supposed to change organizations, right? Especially as a quarterback. But it really depends so much more on the team than a lot of people really want to give the quarterback, the organization, credit for. Night and day situations from what you see in Bryce Young last year to what you see in Caleb Williams this year. That is the epitome of doing things the right way, checking all the boxes before you bring in a guy that's never played in the NFL before, has to get all his life in check, really, with now this being his full-time job, really figuring out everything, his routine, his game day stuff, and just performing out there on the field with all the expectations, being the number one overall pick. All of that to just focus on football, and you take away all the other problems that he could have, not having a number one receiver, the O-line being not as strong. You take all that away and you address it already as he walks in through the door. That's the way to do it, and I think the Carolina Panthers, again, were lacking the personnel on offense to make that a reality for Bryce Young. And Thielen, again, I want to touch on him. He was great, but he can't be your number one wide receiver, especially if you're a rookie quarterback. It won't be pretty yet, but obviously this year with a better offense, it'll at least look better. There's definitely going to be some ugly parts in there, some more growing pains, but I think it will be a better product out there, a better offensive line. Bryce Young having another year under his belt. Deontay Johnson might not be the most in-stone, bona fide wide receiver one, but he is an upgrade over what they had last year. Adam Thielen will still be there, now in a more reduced role, as he should have been throughout this entire time with the Panthers. It's going to look a little bit better, and that's all you could really ask for, especially with Dave Canales being a first-time head coach. How is he going to transition into that role? How successful will he be as a leader and leading a young quarterback and a young offense, especially with him being so young as well? How do they maneuver all of that? And a lot of people forget, and I'll just say this to close out this segment, they traded the first overall pick this year for Bryce Young last year to move up in that trade with the Chicago Bears. So it almost adds a little bit more pressure for the Panthers to want to get this right, to sort of validate that move that they made to invest in Bryce Young, because giving up a first-round pick next year, of course you didn't want it to be the first overall pick, you didn't want to be bad, but that was a possibility with drafting a rookie quarterback, and knowing that you're ill-prepared, you should have known that that could have been a possibility. And now that you just gave away the first-round pick to the Chicago Bears this year, and how well they're doing already in the preparation for Caleb Williams and making sure he has all the help he needs, it adds a little bit more incentive and a little bit more pressure, I think, that the Panthers need to make sure they get this right, because it's going to look very bad if they traded that first-round pick in the start of 2023 and Caleb Williams goes on to be this great quarterback. And how did the Bears even get him? It was because the Panthers gave away a first-round pick. They didn't do a good job of developing Bryce Young, and they're still not as well or not as good as we would have thought they would have been with having Bryce Young as their quarterback. They could avoid all of that by just keeping to this plan, not changing their offense or not their offensive coordinator, their head coach too much, sticking with Dave Canales, seeing this whole project, pan out and work itself out. I think it's the best way to go. It's going to be hard. Nobody said it was going to be easy, but with Bryce Young, I still am holding out confidence that he will get the job done and will be a success for the Carolina Panthers. They're on the right path, at least now. Hopefully they execute in 2024. But that'll wrap it up for that segment. We're going to go to another break, and when we return, some more revelations coming in the kickoff game, more on Justin Reid taking a bigger role in that field and how taking a bigger role in that field could potentially extend his career a few more years once he's not the top caliber safety in the NFL. What do I mean by that? Stay tuned to find out more on what Justin Reid said about it and my thoughts on the kickoff game revolutionizing the NFL. We'll be right back in just a few seconds.